Okay, this is a replacement tape for TY46, Peah, in Peah, and we are starting on Laman Ralph in Halacha Dalet. If you forgot two piles of grain in the field, they are considered to be shikha, and 3 are not shikha. If you forgot 2 piles of olives or of carobs in the field, shikha ushlosha and shikha, they are considered to be shikha, and 2 are considered to be shikha, 3 are not considered to be shikha. If you forgot 2 strands of pishton in the field, they were quite large, then that's shikha, v'shlosha and shikha, and 3 are not shikha. Hutzani are strands, but they're equivalent to bundles. Shnei gagorim, if you forgot 2 grapes, they're peret. Ushlosha and peret, 3 are not peret. Shnei shibolim leket, if you forgot 2 stalks of grain, then they're leket. Ushlosha and leket, if you got 3, it's not leket. This is the demarcation according to Beis Hillel. 3, the demarcation between 3 and 4, not between 2 and 3. It's really a question. Do they have to be in a row in order to be considered not shikha, or even if they're like a dalid, which is like a gamma, is that also considered to be not shikha? In other words, you need a pattern besides number, or does the number itself determine that it belongs to the Baal Bais? It doesn't answer. About piles, so but olive trees, not low. Between a pile and a tree, tziburim is considered to be the completion of the harvest, and that's considered to be susceptible to shikha. If you forget olives, that's not considered to be gamar malacha, meaning that it's like forgetting an entire field to harvest. That's not, it's too large. It never reached the stage where it's worthy to or susceptible to shikha. Rabbi Yesha said, I was harvesting specific individual olives off the tree. Rabbi the Great. He said, if you forgot an olive, but if you extend your hand backwards, you can still reach it without bending over or moving. And you can take it. It's not shikha. Rabbi Yechon, not true. We came in trouble of shikha. Once you pass it, you miss by an inch, you miss by a mile. Hareu shikha is considered to be shikha. Shnei gagorim, 2 grapes are peret. Rabbi Lezer b'shem Rabbi Chia Rabba, Lezer named Rabbi Chia the Great. Before it's a Rabbi Chia Gadol, here Rabbi Chia Rabba, same thing. Even Chatzi Eshkol is a peret. A half a cluster is considered to be peret. Tiny Rabbi Chia Chatzi Eshkol, Eshkol Shalim peret. Even an entire cluster is considered to be peret. So it says, what are you going to do with our Mishnah? Is peret. Only 2 grapes is considered to be peret. Not more than that. Even 3 grapes is already not peret. What are you talking about, even a cluster? Rabbi Shimon said, when the case in which you up to a cluster is considered to be leket, not leket, this peret, is a case where you took the grapes off the tree and you put them down on the ground. And when you put them down on the ground, they tend to separate from the cluster and go all over the place. So what Rabbi Chia Rabba is saying is a knas. Since you put them on the ground and you knew that stuff was going to roll around like that, so therefore you figured, well, you're going to get several grapes in one place, and it's going to save you from the halacha of peret. So therefore we find you that the equivalent, not grapes on the cluster, but the equivalent of an entire cluster of grapes which is scattered over an area is considered to belong to the ani. You shouldn't have done that. So what you should have done is put it in a basket. If you would have put it in a basket, then you would have had in the basket the grapes, and some of them would have fallen out, and that would have been leket and not perets, up to 2 and not 3. But if you put them on the ground and you intend that way to have them scattered and scarred in a way that it's not going to be peret, then we find it will make you give up to an entire cluster worth of grapes to the aniyim. If the grapes were in a way that 3 individual grapes were connected by twigs to each other, and they fell down off the tree, then even if they fell and broke, they're considered not to be leket, not to be peret. It has to be that they were cut off the tree together, meaning that if they fell apart, but you can tell from where they cut that when they fell on the tree, there were 3 together, and that's how they cut off the tree, then it's not considered to be peret. If they were cut apart separately off the tree, then even if they fell together afterwards, it's still considered to be peret. Okay. And all of them Beis Shammai say, Rabbi Avin. Rabbi said, Tamai, the Beis Shammai, what's the source Beis Shammai? Lager le'esom v'amano yeh. 3 words. Lager le'esom v'amano, 3 up to 3. Tamai, the Beis Hillel, is le'aniv lager tazov asam. 2 words. Aniv lager. So after 2. I'm understand because no, they both are the same pasuk. Lager le'esom v'amano yeh. Beis Shammai says that lager le'esom v'amano is considered to be for the those 3 words. Go to the ger some amanot. It's pasuk on the pasuk. Beis Shammai says anim, but Beis Hillel the Babais Beis Shammai darshan the word yeh. That yeh is b'havayoso yeh retains its former status. So even if you have 3, it's still to its former status. If you have 3, it has its former status, which is it belongs to Ba'abas. It's only if it has 2 that it belongs to the ani. Okay. Home and shesh posa sign. Shoko, and Oshicha. If you have this bundle or the sheave which is large enough that has two assignment, you forget it, and Oshicha, it's not considered to be Shicha. Shnei Amorim by so assignment. However, it's 2 Amorim together, and you have them among the 2 of them so assignment. And Gamliel Mel Ba'abayis. And Gamliel says still it goes to Ba'abayis. Chom Amorim no. The fact that it's 2 is Lanim. So Rabbi Gamliel didn't like this. I'm a Rabbi Gamliel of Chimir. Rov Amorim. When you have more Amorim, what does that normally do? In other words, when you're going up in the number of Amorim, is it Yofi Kochel Shabbayis or Hura Kochel? Does it make it better or worse for the Abbas normally? Amal Yofi Kochel, they said, usually makes it better for him, because if you get up to 3, it belongs to Ba'abayis for sure. Amal, so he said to him, Nu, Uman, but Manchu Omer Echod or both Sosaim Shacho. If when it's 1 Omer which has Sosaim, you forgot Eno Shicha, it's not considered to be Shicha. Shnei Amorim, one Sosaim, if you have 2 Amorim and there's a Sosaim in them, Eno Dinchlo Shicha, it's not a Kavachomer that it shouldn't be Shicha. Amru lo imamarta by merechot gadish. No, it's a special halacha by 1 pile or 1 sheaf, which is the size of a gadish, the size of a major, like granary. That there it's considered to be not shicha. But 2 amarim are like 2 small bundles, and therefore, since they're 2 small bundles, so therefore that is not considered to be significant enough to avoid the halacha of shicha. Rabbi Lezer. So the Gemara now, I'm going to the Gemara. Rabbi Lezer, Ksiv, it says, Ki tiktzor k'tzircha b'sadecha. It says, if you cut k'tzircha b'sadecha, you cut the harvest in your field. V'shachachto omer b'sada, and you forget an omer in the field. The goymer, etc. So omer the rest of the puzzle says, Lo so shulchachto, you shouldn't go back and take it. So from this we darshan omer shatoyochel lishad yodcha v'litlo. In order for it to be considered shircha, it has to be something which you leave. It means it has to be something which is portable. And these are not portable. If they're not portable, these piles, they're not considered to be shicha. This one which is too large for you to stretch your hand and take it, that's not shicha. There's some time learned. The way they darshan our Mishnah's halacha, if you forget an omer, below gadish, not a gadish. Hey chavida, so says more hey chavida, which is, so basically they're asking, what's enough between the two drashos? Shochach omer echad betzido. He forgot another omer next to this large omer. There was a large omer there, size of the same, and he forgot another one next to it. In tavine omer, if you're going to say that the large one is an omer, it's just that it's not portable, so then the second one for sure, there's nothing to save it. It's not next to anything, which is so should save it, and therefore the second one's for sure shicha. The gadish, but if you're going to make this large one, you're going to consider gadish, like the second brisa said. Then we did come out to machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, which we had earlier in the parak, which argued about the omer next to a gadish, whether it's shicha or not. So that'd be the nafkamina whether we regard the first omer as being potter aus because it's not portable, or whether it is because it is considered to have a side of gadish, whether machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel concerning omer the side of gadish shicha or not kicks in or not. Shahash ne'amar betzido. Similarly, if you forgot 2 amarim next to it, 2 amarim next to the gadish, right? Yeah, the big pile and then 2 small piles next to it. If you're going to say that the big pile has still status of omer, like it's still portable, then machlekes Beis Shammai, the machlekes Beis Shammai, which you just mentioned a few minutes ago, the machlekes concerning 3 or 4, right? But if you're going to say that no, the big omer is considered to be its own separate thing, the gadish, right? It's not considered to be an omer. Then the the Gadish cannot be counted in the number. If it can't be counted in the number, so Eino Nidam B'Shura, it's not counted as a Shura. If you remember a few moments ago I mentioned this question, is specifically even a row, or is it even if it's in a gam? So I guess the Gemara used your Shura to as, because a Shura is definitely, if there's a row of the three, it's definitely considered not to be Shikha. So then if if you make it into an Omer, so then you have three in the place, and then it's a question of the Machlekes Beis Shammai, whether three to Balabais or three to the Yoni. If you say that the big pile is considered to be a Gadish, then you only really have two next to the Gadish, and therefore it's not three. That Machlekes doesn't kick in. The question rather it kicks in is the question of Omer next to Gadish or not. Okay. Kama sheish po sa'asayim. If you have a kama standing grain in the field, which is the size of a sa'asayim, v'shakha, and you forget it, ain't no shikha. It's not considered to be shikha. Ain't bo sa'asayim. Before we were talking about shibolos in the previous. I'm going back to the Mishnah. I should make that clear. I'm going back to the Mishnah now, and earlier in the Mishnah talked about shibolos hachashnei shibolos. That's when it's already cut. But here it's standing grain, and there's a locha, even in standing grain, while it's still standing, that there is a din of shicha. If it has sa'asayim, and you forgot it, it's not shicha. Ein bo sa'asayim, it does not have sa'asayim. But it could produce sa'asayim. We're in a good year, this is a blighted year. Afilu hishel toifach, meaning even if they're very, very shriveled, the grain this year, it's like toifach, a certain type of legume which has very tiny kernels. You look at it as if it's very large, like the full-blown barley, and therefore whatever its sign could be, whatever could theoretically be sign, that's not considered to be shikha. Anova is like a grapelet, right? The difference is not a kernel; it's even larger. A grapelet of sorghum, a grapelet of barley. Back to Gemara. It says kitikzor k'tzircha b'sodecha. Shachachto omer basode. If you forget omer basode, omer sheish bo sa'asayim v'shacho eno shikha, and omer which has sa'asayim and you forgot it is not considered to be shikha, and that's considered to be the k'tzircha. But the besodecha teaches us kama sheish bo sa'asayim v'shikha eno shikha. Your kama has two sa'asayim. The way the Kabbalaki says not. The Ketzir B'Sadecha is going on the harvest, and Omer Basodeh, that's going on the standing grain. I don't know if you have whichever way it works, whichever Sodeh you pick will be fine. So Omer Sheish B'Sasayim Shal Yishcha, Kama Sheish B'Sasayim Shalcha Eino Shikha. V'afilu Shal Toifach In V'Sil Toifach Omer Rabbi Yesi Uvad Shibolim. It's not talking about beans themselves. It's talking about grain, right? Even if its grain is very, very small, we consider it to be like as if it was full grain. It has v'hoyu dakos renos on kilarukos. In that case, if they're thin, we look at them as if they're long, and if they're shudufos, that they're blighted, to dry to shrivel, we look at them as if they are full. I don't know why we also have to stress uvachu shibolim. I mean, what do you think we're talking about? I think what he probably means is that it has to have, not like Kavanaki says here, but rather that's not legumes, but rather means it has to have grown a bit. If it hasn't grown, if it's grown into stalks, then we give it the benefit of the doubt as if it's sa'asayim. But if it grow even to the size of stalks, then we go by the net sa'asayim, not by a virtual sa'asayim. Maybe that's the pshat. Anyway, going on to halachavav. Hakama matzal says sa'omer ves hakama. If you have standing grain, it saves both itself and the pile or sheaf which is next to it. However, if you have have one omer which you did not forget, and an omer next to it which you did forget, it doesn't save los omer v'los hakama, neither omer next to it nor the kama next to it. Ezi kama shematzel says omer. What's the kama which saves the omer? Afilu kol shein shikha, as long as it's not shikha. In other words, as long as you recall it, afilu kelach echad. Even there's only one single stalk which you didn't forget, you could save an entire omer. Rabbi Bila said, Rabbi Lo, elsewhere. Yes, so the way he dashes this pasuk, when you harvest your field and you leave an omer should see voice of katzir. It's an omer which is surrounded by harvested areas. Well, omer should see voice of kama, not an omer which is surrounded by standing areas. Omer should see voice of amorim. Omer should see voice of kaima. What? Interesting. It's exeris akasav. But we ask for the time of the crow here, I guess. Why is an oimer shizvois of amorim is not? Why is an oimer shizvois of amorim is shikha? V'oimer shizvois of kama, but oimer shizvois of kama is not shikha. But oimer shizvois of amorim masha tachtov soda. An oimer which was surrounded by other amorim is considered to be in the field, and it shall chachta oimer basode. But oimer shizvois of kama masha tachtov kashim. This is considered to be it's not a ktircha b'sadecha. It's what's underneath it is considered to be a kind of straw or hay, and it's kind of strange. I don't see. I'm not so sure I got this here. The way I see the way Kavanaki wants to learn, he wants to put in like kind of an okimto here. That's talking about where you have stalks on the ground, not stalks, straw on the ground, and you put the morim on the straw. So he says that where you put this is from Rabbi Yo Fulda. That where you put the sheaves, the bundles on the straw on the ground, then it's considered to be sada if it's surrounded by sada around it. Underneath, it's not considered to be sada because there's straw, but it's surrounded by sada, so therefore shach to omer basada. As opposed to when surrounded by standing grain, so. And it itself is on straw, so then that's not considered to be omer basada. It's not this. What's around it is not yet a sada. In other words, it's not ktsircha b'sadecha, and underneath it's not sada because of the straw which is underneath it, and therefore it's not considered to be susceptible yet to shikha. Okay, could be. It's an interesting shot that has to do with whether even though it itself is on straw, the surrounding area is considered to be a harvested field or not. Okay, Tanya, we learned kamas chavero matzelos hel shalo. Even your friend standing grain saves yours. V'shal goy matzelos shel even a goy saves the Jews. V'shal chiti matzelos shel and one of wheat saves one of barley. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Chomrim ena matzelos elo shalo. Chomrim say no, it's only his own, not somebody else's. It's not somebody else's das, but only his das. Ena matzelos shelo, ena matzelos es mina, and it's got to be its specific type. So guess barley and barley, wheat and so on and so forth. It'd be interesting to try and find a connection between this sheet of Rabbi Meir and other sheets of Rabbi Meir, but I'm not going to take the time right now, but is a worthwhile area, a direction of inquiry. Tana Shingol Omer, Kishem Shakama Matel says Omer, just like Kama saves the Omer, standing grain saves the harvested bundle, or harvested pile, Kach Omer Matel Sakama. So too there's such a thing as an Omer which is not Shicha, saving the Kama. Which is not like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said, but he says it's a logic. What's the logic? If a kama, by the way, I didn't tell you before, but I started more in the middle Mishnah because the Kavanaki does. I'm sorry about that. I should have mentioned that. So again, if the kama in which the ani has more power, because there's more power because it gets more matanos, because there's leket shicha and peah, right? If that nevertheless harei matzeles oimer, the bundle shehura koch ani bo, where the ani has less rights because he has a shicha, there's already no leket or peah, and odin shiatzil is not a kavachomer that's matzil. That is a very cool logic. Amalo Rebbe said no. Mala kama sheyipa kocha ani ba kama. It's true. The ani has superior, more gifts in it. V'yimatzeles leomer, and it saves the omer shekain hura koch ani ba. It saves the omer in which the ani has less rights. Yatzil omer. Shehura kach anibo lekama sheyafe kach anibo. Do you think an omer which the ani has less on, that is going to save the kama? Is going to save the kama from the hand of the ani? Let's see this comparison here. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said just like a kama saves the omer, so to the omer saves the kama. That's a logic. The kama. Kama, which the ani has more power, that saves. The omer, which the ani has less power, certainly saves. So Rebbe says, Kama, which has more power for the ani, but it saves the omer for the baal bayis. Ah, I see. He's looking. That's Rebbe's saying also goes for. He says a comma. The ani has more power in it, right? And it saves the oimer, which the ani has less power in. In other words, the fact that it's next to a comma, which was the Bais can come back and get, so it saves an omer, even though the omer is separate from the comma. It saves it because it locks in to the stronger strength which an omer has inherently. So the fact that you didn't forget the comma locks into the stronger capacity which the omer has and saves it. However, an omer fakir, it's true that omer hura koicha aniba. Right, the ani has less power in it, but it can't lock into anything in the comma to save the comma, because the comma, the ani does not has more power. So therefore, it can't. According to Rashin Gamliel, we look at the strength of the thing which is saving. The thing which is saving, as long as it's more shy to Baal Bayis, it should save more. According to Rebbe, it's fakert. It's the other way. You look at whether it can prop up the thing being saved, and only something which is more to the Baal Bayis can prop up the thing which is saved, as opposed to something which is less to Baal Bayis. Only where the thing which is being saved is more to the Baal Bayis is susceptible to be propped up to begin with. But something which is less to the Baal Bayis, meaning a comma which is less to the Baal Bayis, is too collapsed. It cannot be propped up by the thing next to it. That's a very cool machlokes. From both of them we learn, matzilin oimer mi oimer, you can save an oimer from an oimer, not like the author of our Mishnah who says oimer is not matzil another oimer, but the oimer can be propped up, right? And it's going to be because it's has less affinity to the ani, and the oimer which does the propping up also has less affinity to the ani. So in this case, both the proper and the properee are have more kochval bias, and they should save each other. They matzil comma mi comma, but one comma cannot save another comma again, because there's a chisaron in both the proper and the properee. This is obvious argues in our Mishnah, which obviously does not hold of these very, very creative svaras. I like them. Okay, says going back to Mishnah. Satvu akura, if you have a saw which you already harvested and a saw which you didn't harvest, and you forgot both of them. So we said before, an omer shish b'sasayim is not shikha, but not in this case. These are not mitzaref to sasayim. They don't join together because they're too dissimilar. If there's something there in the middle which divides, which belongs to ani, which is such as leket or peret, which is totally different and belongs to ani, then it's like a mechitza or hefsek. But if not, harayim mitzaref, and the fact that they're dissimilar doesn't make a difference. They are mitzaref. Final analysis, each saw doesn't belong to the ani. So yet, final analysis, the two saws join together. Says the Gemara, back to the Gemara, I'm shichacha have. This is going not on our Mishnah. This is going on the Mishnah which said previously, what comma saves the omer as long as the comma is not shikha. So now this Gemara is saying, but if you forgot the comma, then the omer is shikha as well. So if that's the case, tipoter. What are we on for that? So he wants to say like this. Kavanoki is based on the Rebellion Fulda and the Gra. He says that if that's the case, even if you forgot the comma after it saved the omer, the comma is considered to be forgotten. So if that's the case, we can say it sounds like even if it was once saved, it's later susceptible to shikha again. In other words, yes, it saves at the time, but if you forget again, then it's considered to be shikha afterwards. Says the Gemara, no. That which you medayik, that if you forget it afterwards, it's considered to be forgotten. That could be only where you forgot the comma before you forgot the omer, and it never saved it. But but in fact, if you forgot the omer and the comma already saved it, it doesn't become shikha. Okay, it's an interesting shakal. Basically, what it's saying is, the question is, the Gemara initially wanted to be that if you forgot when you remember the comma is matzil when you as long as you remember the comma, but even once after it's matzil, if you forget the comma, it itself can become shicha. And the Gemara says no, only if you forgot the comma before it's saved, the omer is it considered to be shicha. But if you forgot after say the omer, once something's saved, it can't become shicha afterwards. It must be some musar haskell there. But once you save something, then it can become shicha, but not for now. You stand on Akuras about bias. This is now for our Mishnah. The clear inference was that the only is where one is Akura and one is not Akura. But if they're both Akuros, it belong to the Baal bias. So that's Masis Kram Gimel said two Amarim, each of which has a Sa'ah, which we saw earlier, are mitzvah together, and they save, and not like the Tanakama there who said there has to be dafka one pile with two Amarim. Says Gemara, V'titzakur mishum ein Akura. I understand. In this case here, the uprooted saw should be saved because the non-uprooted saw has not been forgotten. Something which is suitable to be saved, but you forgot it, is considered to be shikha. I'm not sure why this is such a great question. Isn't that obvious? It's going back, obviously, on what the Gemara began with, this Gemara. So the inference here is again, let the one which is uprooted be saved because the one which is not uprooted, meaning permanently. Hadamar teaches something which can be matzil, v'shacho, and if you eventually forgot it, harei u'shikhacha. I mean, there's no permanent salvation here. It's all temporary, just like we said before. You know what, I just realized something in the Mishnah. I forgot a whole line. I'm sorry. The Mishnah said, Hashum v'abitzolim einam mitzvah from the salasayim. If you have onions and garlic and onions, they're not mitzvah to salasayim, even though they're similar to each other. They don't join together. They have to be the same min. I forgot that. I'm just looking back in the Mishnah. I see that I forgot that. I'm sorry. So getting back over here, I'm still not clear on this concept. Let's try it one more time for top of the Lamed Aleph Hamad Aleph. Says the Gemara, "V'titza akura mishum she'ein akura." Let the one which is the kama, right, which is not forgotten, save the akura. That's the okay. And the question is, if the kama can then become shikha afterwards. In other words, once it's saved, so really chasim are not safer, but I'm taking it from the Kavanaki here. And once it's saved, does it become shikha afterwards or not? Once it saves, it can become shikha or not. And hadamara, it sounds like it can be that it saves at one point, but not afterwards. Hadamara, davasharoy latil shakha rei shikha. Even though it's suitable to save, later when you forgot it, it's considered to be forgotten. Rabbi Yehuda said not necessarily. Shura made so about where you're harvesting a row, and immediately after you finish the row, you make the sheaves from it. You make the bundle, you make the piles from it. And for shagas a kama achlo shagas amorim, and you forgot the kama in that row before you forgot the omorim, and that's why it's shichacha. So it's enachanami luyitzur that the comma was there to save the omer, then and it saved the omer. The comma can never be forgotten afterwards. But this type of case where you forgot the comma before you forgot the omer, and then it never saved. Since it never saved, since you forgot the karma before the Amorim, it never saved, and that's why it itself can become shikha afterwards. So where at one time it's saved, then it can never become shikha. Here, where it never saved, because you forgot the karma before the Amorim, it cannot be considered to be, it can eventually become shikha later on. Continuing on with the middle of halacha above here. In Lamed Aleph Hamad Aleph, in Bas Rishus Ha'ani Bon, Be'emtad Rishus Ha'ani was mafsik between the two, so signed and Namid Starif. Achabas Mamish, does it mean that there's literally like a parrot in the middle? Mamish? Oh, Afilun Nires Lavo, even if it's Roy to that. In other words, there is something in the middle from which leket and parrot could come. like a field of grain or vines from which it can come. Boy, that would really be a large separation. I'm not sure what the shiur is. I mean, it was open field. What would be the shiur? That's interesting. I guess it's not considered to be a hefsek since it's not open field, and that's the point. It's continuous. The question is what the continuity is made up with. So let's see what he answers. So from here, the Tanya learned Kagon Tvua V'Kerem. It says that such a thing, what's something which is mafsik in the middle, something like a Tvua or a Kerem. The Kerem lo al asaru. A Kerem, is it not standing? Is it in place? It's not yet parrot. Hadamra feel nearest of all means even if it could become parrot, even if right now it's not parrot. Halacha zayin. If you have grain which is given for the put out for the purpose of shachas, in order to give it to an animal, or it's put out la'aluma to eventually make sheaves of these piles. Okay, so too you put out bundles of you have a bunch of garlic which grew together, which you're going to bundle. And this is actually small bundles, which are going to make into larger bundles. The way Kavanok explains Agudah Shum is the way they naturally grow together. I've never seen it, but that's what it says. And Agudah Shum is these naturally growing together bundles, which are going to make into larger bundles. Ain't Shikha, there's no Shikha because the different reasons. So with by the Michael Behema, there is no Shikha because it's Michael Behema. And by the Shum Tzalim, which are going to make it larger bundles, there's no shikha because it didn't reach the Gemara Melechas Isuf yet. It hasn't reached the end point of the harvesting, which therefore means it's not yet susceptible to shikha. It's not just if you put it down for shachas that it has no shikha. I'm going to the Gemara. Not just if you put it down for shachas that already that it doesn't have shikha. Just took it with the intent of putting it down for the purpose of shachas. That is sufficient to that it will not be. It's going to oimid l'shachas, so therefore it's not going to become to a shikha. However, back to the Mishnah. Anything which is in the ground, grows in the ground. Kigon haluf. It's a type of onion. Vashum and garlic, v'abtzoim, and our onions. It says no shikha, there's no shikha on the ground. Chamrim yesh lem shikha, there is shikha on the ground. If you forget an oimer in the field, prat l'tomon, that precludes something which is buried. Divir Rabbi Yehuda. Chamrim basodeh, by base, l'rabasam, even something which is basodeh, inside the field, underneath the ground. Tamani, we learned over there, amadlik es hagodish, if somebody lit up a pile of grain, vayibo kalim. So there were kalim inside the pile. Right? You don't remember Shine Komash but it says that you pay everything inside, which sounds like he does, which is his shita. We know from Baba Kama Chayav Al Tamun Beish, and whereas Chachamim Einam Shalom El Gadish Chid Megadishim, they part to you from paying for the Tamun. You only pay the value of what the grain would have been worth in that location. You don't pay the value of the kalim which are inside. So Mechafa Shita said Rabbi Yehuda. It seems like Yehuda contradicts himself. Tamun Oimer there it says Hasodeh by Baba Kama. L'Rabbasa Tamun, you have to pay for that which is buried in it as well. The Russian Pasuk says Venecha Gadish or Kama O Hasodeh, and the Hasodeh teaches us including stuff which is buried. V'chol Omer, and here it says Basodeh Prat Lo Tamun. Basodeh excludes that which is buried. So it says Gemara Tamon Ksiv Venecha Hagadish O Hakama. If the Gadish or the Kama is consumed, the pile of grain or the standing grain. Since it says that you're chayav for the standing grain, do we not know that you're certainly chayav on the harvested grain? So it's not the hay of hasodeh, but rather, why does it say gadish, which is superfluous, in order to include that which is buried inside. Here, on the other hand, where it says basodeh, means bagalui, open, prat le as opposed to that which is buried. Now, on the other hand, Mechafashi and the Rabbanon see the contradict themselves as well. Tamani, Namrin, there they say, I saw that Prat Tamun. The Kohen Baso del Rabbas Tamun, they say it excludes that which is buried in the pile. And here it says includes that which is buried in the pile. So Tamun Ksiv, or Kama, or Asodeh. And we darshan or kama sodeh masodeh begalui af kol davar shebegalui. Just like a soda is revealed, so to everything which is revealed, as opposed to something buried inside the gadish. Baram hachaksiv kitzircha bagalui, which would come to which would mean prat l'tamun, preclude that which is tamun. Basodeh also means bagalui prat l'tamun, so it's not from the base of inside the field, but rather basodeh they also darshan to mean bagalui revealed. So prat l'tamun. Right, so there are two miyutim which remind something buried. One is kitzircha and basodeh. Again, not darshan base. We're darshan the havamida, but now that's darshan basodeh revealed. Having miyut achar miyut, so it's a double miyut. Miyut achar miyut, miyut achar miyut. Elo l'rabos, so miyut achar miyut only comes to rabos here. In this case, es hatomun. Okay, the Mishnah says hakotzer balayla v'amamer basuma yeshem shircha. It's your fault if you decide to harvest at night. Tough luck. Why'd you do it? And if you're making piles at night, and you forgot, to kotzer, you forgot standing grain, you forgot the piles, assuming you're blind, but there is shikha. If, however, you're a person who wanted to take first the large bundles and then go back for the smaller bundles, first the large piles and then the small piles, ain't no shikha, there's no shikha. Because he has in mind to go back, so therefore nothing there is left behind for real. But if he says I want to be masa, then he wants to say no, I'm being kotzer on the condition that I can take with that which I forget. He's got shikha. Kini Masisa says this is the way to meet the Mishnah. Kotzer balayla, v'amir balayla, and suma ben bayom ben balayla. Which the suma is both day and night. Don't think it's about suma balayla. If he had in mind to go back to get the other ones, not only where he has in mind to take the large ones first and goes back to the small ones, but even the converse. He had in mind to pick the small ones first, to get the small ones, and then then go afterwards back for the large ones. What's this? Why is there having to be a chiluk? Because I might have thought when he has in mind to go back later for the small ones, for sure find the big ones, and therefore it's not shikha. But I had in mind to go back for the big ones, he might not find the small ones, and therefore they should be shikha. So because when he goes back and looks for the gasin, the large ones, he's going to find also small ones, and therefore they have no shikha as well. That I should be able to gather, that doesn't work. My timer, she's no masha kosu b'Torah, because he gets made a t'nai against the Torah. I call mashna masa kosu b'Torah, and anybody who makes a t'nai against that which it says in the Torah, to know batel, his t'nai is null and void. Okay, Perek Zion, Perek Shvi. Kol zayis yeshu shem basada. Even any zayis which has a name. I feel zayis hanetofa b'shaito. Even the olives are dripping oil. I guess that's the name which is given. In other words, it's not a name. It's not like Bob. It's just like a dripping olive tree. So v'shochan, you forget an shikha because two choshes be considered shikha. But it's like forgetting a whole field. But medavarimim b'shmo uv'maisav v'mkoma. What are names? When it has a name with its has a name, or it has a special deed, or it has a special place. Bishmo is shoya shafchuni or beishoni. We'll have to see in the Gemara what that means. But Maisav, this is one way. Another way it's renowned. Shoya Obey makes a lot of product. Mimklaimo shom inside a gasa inside a period, so it stands next to a well-known place, next to the wine press, or next to the break in the wall. But Sharkol Zaysim and other olive trees, it says here, Shnaim Shikha, two are considered Shikha, Shlosha Einam Shikha, and Shlosha are not Shikha. Rabbi Yossi Omer and Shikha Zaysim, it says no Shikha Zaysim, and when we started this tape, we had that Shita, there's no Shikha Zaysim back in the previous Perek, but here it's a Machlekes. What is that? On Lamed Amud Aleph. It said, Zaysim low, right at the beginning of the Gemara, and Allah Dalet. So that obviously is going like Rabbi, but it seems to be going, the inference is like Rabbi Yossi. Okay. Rabbi Hila said, this is an Omer which you're going to forget because it's anonymous forever. As opposed to this one, which eventually you will remember because it has a name. What about if you have it in your mind? In other words, in your mind, internally, and it's not well known to other people. So what about that? Is it a Kamisha Masuyam, or is it not like Kamisha Masuyam? And there is no answer. Hayam Ebitzad a dekel. A dekel Saimov. If the olive tree was next to a palm tree, then palm tree makes it specific. Hayushneim Netaifa. If they're both dripping, I guess they're both dripping with oil or whatever the palm trees drip, sap. Each one helps the other to be not shicha. The Kavanoki wants to say this way about Hayushneim Netaifa. He's probably right. Hayushneim Netaifa. They're both. I don't see why. Well, actually, he is right. I was wrong. Hayushneim Netaifa. If they're two olives, each of which is Netaifa at its specific time. In other words, one is Netaifa in earlier in the season, one Netaifa late in the season. The bottom line is they both have names. Zemisayim Zeh. Each one at any given time is Messiah the other one, which is next to it, because it has a specific location next to a specifically identified one. Okay, what if your entire olive orchard was Netaifa? It's all dripping. So there should be no shich on the entire field. There should be minada. Let's learn out from here. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says ein shichol l'zeisim. So and Rabbi Shimon said, "Vam Rabbi Shimon Yakim lo Rabbi Yossi el b'rishoina." The Rabbi Yossi only said his halacha initially. Shayu zaysim mitzuyim. Shloyu zaysim mitzuyim, where there were olives were not prevalent. And since olives are not prevalent, so therefore they were considered each one to be chashuv. Because then nothing grew right after the Churban, because Adrianus destroyed all of Eretz Yisrael. But now that Zaysim are prevalent, they have Shikha, then less Chashuv, and also the assumption is where the Taifas are prevalent, they have Shikha as well. Okay? My Shavchani. Now get back to the names which we had in the Mishnah. What's a Shavchani? Shunaitiv Shem, which drips oil. Says, what are you talking about? But in the tufa, we describe it as a tufa. Elishu Oisarbe, it's very productive. It flows out of it. But and then we learned that Maisav Oisarbe, that's a separate thing, it makes a lot. Shavchuni Shoisa Shemen Harbe. Shavchuni makes a lot of oil, which flows. In the tufa, Naitiv Shemen, it drips a lot of oil while it's growing. But Maisav She'eno Oisarbe, Maisav is that it produces a lot of olives. Shoisa Zaysim Harbe. Bishane, what's the other name given in our Mishnah? Bishane. Some people literally wanted to say it's an embarrassing one, meaning that it only produces very little oil, and that's why it's remembered, because it's a lousy one. It embarrasses its friend. What does it mean it embarrasses its friend? In other words, at what shiur is considered to be embarrassing friends? Adu avid arba kuflusin. Is it only when it makes 4 times as much? Arba for Kiahida Tnina Tamon. That's a Kiahida like we learned over elsewhere. Kol Mari Sada Shal Kav Kav Echel Shar Bar Kabin. If all the Omarim are of 1 kabin, one of us have 4 kabin, then it's not Shichach. So here too the proportion is 4 to 1. Or do we say it otherwise? The way the Kavanoki learns that this is the maskana. Once it makes a little bit more its friend, that's a reika mesuyam. It's adu avid again. The way Kavanoki learns is a question. Adu avid kol shana b'shana. Does it have to produce more every year? No. Once it does most of the years, that's sufficient for it to be considered to have a designated name. Bimkoimoi, Shuoime B'tzad Agas, we said in the Mishnah. Masisika Beishamai, our Mishnah is like Beishamai. The time we learned over there, Beishamai Omrim, Oimer Shu, so we referred to this Machlekes earlier this evening, but we didn't mention it explicitly. But this here, it's explicit. Taman Beishamai Omrim, Oimer Shu, Samach Lagapov, Lagodish, Eino Shikha. And Oimer, which is next to the Gapa or the Godish, Eino Shikha, so here too, seems like this is considered to be like Beishamai. I'm ready to say Tivya Koli. Here everybody agreed. Tom on there, David Tolish B'tzadam Rechuber, where the Omer is next to a fence or something, there Beisha Beisil will say the Mechuber is not Matzil the Tolish. But here, David Rechuber B'tzadam Rechuber, so then to both Mechuber, one is Matzil the other. Let's go back now to Rabbi Yossi. And Rishim Yakim Lomar Rabbi Yossi B'Rishoina. Excuse me. It's only initially Shloyu Zaysim Mitzuyim when there weren't so many Zaysim. Fishba Dranas and Rosh Berchiv Kol Arts because Dranas came to destroy the entire land. Avlachshav Shah Zaysim Mitzuyim, but now that Zaysim are prevalent, Yesh Lem Shichla. Rabbi Yosi Lo Chayev Adam Shichla L'Zaysim. Nobody, Rabbi Yosi said that nobody said that when you argue Rabbi Akiva was the Tana of our Mishnah, the Tana Kama. Lo Chayev Adam, he said Lo Chayev Adam Shichla L'Zaysim Rabbi Akiva. The author of this Mishnah, Tana Kama, is Rabbi Akiva Dudarish Acharecha. It says Lo Sfaer Acharecha by Zaysim, and with the Acharecha teaches us Acharecha teaches us that there's Shikha. So this argues in Rabbi Shimon Yokim. Rabbi Shimon Yokim learned Rabbi Yosef ben Okimta only where there weren't so many olives. Rabbi Yossi, it's either Bryson named Rabbi Yossi, it's Rabbi Yossi Lamoira. I said it's Bryce named Rabbi Yossi, and he says no, there's no shikha altogether. It's not that Kim to specific circumstances. There's never shikha because only Rabbi Kiva has shikha for Zaysim. Dudarish acharecha acharecha. Because those fire acharecha which says by Zaysim, xer to acharecha which says by Amorim. Me'ata ain't shikha Zaysim. Rabbi Yossi do lo darish acharecha. So then, according to this, there is no according to Rabbi Yossi who doesn't darshan acharecha acharecha. I guess he wasn't mekabel that gzer shava. So then there is no shikha by Zaysim. Hey, Simon asks a question. Hare oimer shikha hare lo kasuv acharecha. He says. Okay, good point. They say, wait a minute. Rabbi Yossi said that Rabbi Akiva darshan gzer shava acharecha acharecha doesn't say acharecha by shikha, right? Doesn't matter. Says don't go back. It's the same like don't turn acharecha. It's like Rabbi Shmuel says in Kol Terakula Zui Shiva Zui Bia. You learn gzer shava not just from the words, but from the concept. And here it's a conceptual gzer shava that Zaysim therefore have shikha the same way Omorim have shikha. Rabbi Yoni Boy, he asked, who's in the Taifa? Horvu Mesuyam. If you have this going according to Rabbi Shimon Yokim, will hold that Rabbi Yossi was in Okimta, specific times, right? So according to Rabbi Yossi, if you have, according to Rabbi Shimon Yokim, so if you have a dripping tree, since it's Musuyam, I'll die to Rabbi Yossi, Afilu Hischabo, according to Rabbi Yossi, even if you started with that, there is not going to be Kamishlo Israel, it's not going to be as if you didn't start. This is going on the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah says, should we read after the next Mishnah, I guess, that if you started with an Atoifa, then it's not Matzil. It's considered, if once you started with it, so it has Shikha. But according to Rabbi Yossi, even if you started in it, that's what you say later on, that if you started in a Zayis without Shikha, that's only according to Rabbanan. But according to Rabbi Yossi, we go up a level. And even if you started with the Zayis, it doesn't have Shikha. Let's see the next mission, come back to this, because I'm not sure how to read at this point. Zayis if you have a Zayis which is standing among 3 rows, and between them was another olive tree which is not in the row, and the length of each row was the length of 2 patches of grain or of vegetables, which was a shiur which they had from elsewhere, which is not relevant here. 2 patches of the patches are not here. It's the shiur of 2 patches. And you forgot it, eno shikha, because it's separate. Zay sheshbo sa'asayim v'shakha, because you'll go back. I'm sorry. Gemara is going to explain. Zay sheshbo sa'asayim v'shakha. Zay says sa'asayim, you forgot it, and shikha according to anybody, even if it's not in the 2-4 shafchani beishani, it doesn't have names or anything like special traits. There's no shikha. But medvorim amurim, and here's where this kicks in, which we were talking about a moment ago. This is going on the ratio, that which you said, meaning the previous Mishnah, that which you said is Zayis, Netufa, etc., doesn't have Shikha. That's the only way you didn't start. If you started with it, Yesh lo Shikha. Hisrubo means once you start. I think what Hisrubo means, which threw me off before Hisrubo, not when you started the feel with it, but when you started that one, it does have shikhacha. That's the pshat. So therefore, okay, let's finish the Mishnah. We'll go back then. As long as you have stuff underneath, and meaning that you're going to harvest stuff at the bottom of the tree, yeshabrosh you have at the top of the tree. Right? Me'er mishi yelech hamachbo. After literally, according to the Kavanaki, tachta means under the tree, not at the bottom, not growing the bottom, but under the tree. Then you can still go to the top of the tree. The Gemara says that Gemara is going to say right, Meir. It's a question whether Meir is being Mekel or Machmir. The Machbo is somebody who checks for the branches of the tree to make sure there aren't any hidden olives. So we're going to see whether he's Mekel or Machmir the Gemara. So anyway, so now let's go back to that previous Gemara which stumped us. Rabbi Yonah right before the Mishnah. If you started with it, he stated, his statement here, even if you started it, Kamishlo Hisrubo. In other words, just like back to Adrayana, since each one was Choshev, there was no shikha at all. So too, if you started in the Choshev Zayis, there's no shikha on the tree at all. In other words, just like Rabbanan say, there is no shikha on the toifa. The shikha regular olives. There's no shikha about toifa. What you started, then there is shikha in that tree. Rabbi Yosef says there's no shikha by olives. Bisman Adrianus, right? And there's no shikha by the toifa. And there's also no shikha even if you started, because olives are so precious that every single one you carefully go back to comb it to make sure, because they're so precious. There's no such thing as forgetting anything. Again, time Adrianus. Zoktenbar here after Mishnah. This is there's a gears in our Mishnah which said shalshane, which shelishne, which seemed to be referring to a case where there actually were two patches of grain or vegetables. So we're saying that that's not the case. Rather, it's the shiur of two malbenim. So it says, what do we say about? You're going to say because this tree between the rows is mesuyam. So this is why do you need the rest of the olives here? And conversely, if it's a row, so kashura. The way the Kavnoki learns is probably better than the way I just learned it. Going back a moment. What it's about? If you're going to say that it's saved because it's a davar mesuyam, so then, it's because they say one between two rows, because Domasuyim and Kanzesiv. Our Mishnah not talking about significant olive trees. That's not the topic here. That can't be the reason. Vimishum Shura, and if you're going to say that this has to do with rows, Hu Atzmo Nidon Kashura, you want the specific single olive to be judged like a row? Can it sign? Ella, rather, Aidei Shura, Aidei Shuros, meaning that it's saved because it's standing next to a Shura and another Shura. So therefore, when they look at, it was an interesting, convoluted thing here, but I'll tell you what the Kavanaki says. Well, since it's between two shuros, so it's like Kedera the Bei Shutfei Lo Chamime. He doesn't use this analogy. I'm using this. It's like Kedera the Bei Shutfei Lo Chamime V'Lo Karire. The guy, when he's doing one row, he looks at it and says, "Yeah, I'll get to it later." When he's doing the other row, he also says, "Yeah, I'll get to it later." And he might not get around to it, but that's not because he was shocheach it. He had a mind to go back and get it. It's just that absentmindedly, since he went from row to row, he didn't actually He didn't actually take it at the time. So now he says that the Kavnoki adds. This is the interesting thing. He says that he saw it 3 times. He sees it by himself, and he sees it when he does row number 1, and when he does row number 2. And even though he actually never skipped it afterwards, once he saw it 3 times, it's like a chazakeh, that he'll remember it, and therefore it doesn't become shikhacha. Okay, it's a bit convoluted if you ask me, but that's what it says. So Kavanoki explains it, that since you're going to see it as a shur, between the other shuros, and you're just having to be preoccupied, so then it's considered as if you noticed it, and therefore it has a halacha that it can't become shikha. Rabbi Yochanan bezayis nudonian he must nisa. Nudion he must nisa. Our Mishnah is talking about an olive tree which is about to be uprooted. Nudion means it's going to move, like nodade. Rabbi Yosi lo sof nodon nudion. There's no, it's not dafka nudion. Filu shar kol zaysim. Even other types of olive trees. The bottom line is, since they're outside the line, because they are looked at like they're going to be uprooted, so therefore there are no shikha. It's an interesting thing. He's saying a different shot. He's saying it's not because of the two shuros next to it and is remembering and remembering again and seeing it 3 times. Rather, it says because it's an aberration. It's an aberration which he probably looks on negatively and he wants to remove it. But the bottom line, it's an aberration, and people don't forget aberrations, and therefore it cannot become a shura. Istanoitani shenimtza. Mishnah says, "Zay shenimtza ben sholosh roots." It's found. V'istanoitani shenimtza oimed. It's found standing. Mandatani shenimtza. He said that it's found. Messiah Rabbi Yochanan. That's a right for Rabbi Yosi named Rabbi Yochanan, which you just saw. That says that it's about to be. He found it there and he wants to cut it, and that's why. It's not called omed, because he doesn't want it to remain there. Ma'atani shenimtza omed, that he finds it standing and it sounds like he wants to retain it standing there. That's going like Messiah Rabbi Lezu said as far as that he's going to see it 3 times. Masisim Messiah Rabbi Yochanan, the Bryce goes like Rabbi Yochanan, the time of Medvar Moim B'shloya Makiroi, where he didn't recognize it specifically. Avimoya Makir, if he had specific recognition, because it's an aberration, Merade Facharov, he pursues it. I feel like even 100 times. He forgot 100 times. Even if he passed over it 100 times, or he went 100 trees away, he's still going to come back. That which it says, that is, the Mishnah says, if you started, first it says, and then it says, any olive which has a name, like the dripping olive. I might have skipped a couple of seconds there, but because I turned off the machine inadvertently, but shouldn't have been that much. So that which it says, it's not going. This qualification of Yitzchak is not going on this olive which has 2 sa'ah, but rather on the first Mishnah. Where he learned that any zayis which has a name in its field, and you forgot it, Allah concerning this says, oh. Concerning this it says that even if it doesn't have a name. You know, the header here is totally wrong. Without the header, it works out fine. Forget about Amli Hiskal B'chulei. It's about that's not going on the previous part of our Mishnah, right? But it's going on the first Mishnah, and it's going on the Mishnah which says that Kazayis Netoifa. Well, and you should know not just Kazayis Netoifa, but even an olive tree which doesn't have a name. Forget about the row business. An olive tree which doesn't have a name is not considered to be shikha as long as it is very, very productive. Okay, Zok Namara. Kozman Sheish Lo Tachtov. As long as he has, olives underneath, he can go back to the tree itself. Personally, trey passing. They gave 2 explanations to our Mishnah. Kozman Sheish Lo Tachtov Yesh Barosho. This is going on right Meir. Not on this line, Kol Sheish Lo Tachtov. This is, are we going on that? No, it's going right Meir. Right. Right Meir says, Mishtei Halach HaMachbo. It's from the Kavanok, you get from the Gron with Bas. So, Pasin Trey Pasin. Kosman Sheish Lo Tachtov Yesh Lo Barosho. As long as he has, Tachtov, he has at the bottom. And so it says V'chulei here. And Rameir says, Mishtei Halach HaMachbo. Now, one shot is if the machbo didn't come, the checker, even if he doesn't have underneath it, yesh lo brosho, because it ain't over till it's over, and until the machbo comes, it's still considered to be part and parcel of the harvesting process. That's one shot. Lam beis pasa achron. No, even before the machbo comes, kozman sheish lo tachtav yesh lo brosho. Hocha machbo. Once the machbo comes, avo pishein lo barosho. Yesh lo tachtov. So once the machbo goes away, then you can no longer go back to the tree, but you could still go to what's underneath, meaning that the tree is for fallen. But sometimes people check underneath the tree even at that time, even after the machbo goes, and then you can still take that afterwards. Okay. So again, the first shot is as long as you have as long as the machba hasn't come, even though you don't have tachtov, you still have barosho, you still have at the top. The second shot says that after once the machba comes, even though you don't have anything more barosho, whatever's left you can't get, but still you can go look on the tachtov because the machba is only for looking up at the tree. Tani mishum beishamai. We learned the name beishamai. Omer karkar. He holds that not only, even once the machbo has gone away, it's still the paris will belong to the Baal Bayis until he puts down the karkar, which is the stick which uses to shake the tree in order to remove any remaining olives. The karkar is the language of dancing, like it says, "V'davim charab kolos," he makes the tree dance. So as Tahachi Nils Karkar Gumaron, he finishes Hareish Labarosh, you could still go back to the top of the tree. Rabbi Avo B'Shem Yishloki says Karkaro. The Karkar in Aramaic is called the Karkaro. Okay. Mishialach Hamach, Mishialach Hamachbe, Rabbi Avo, what is a machbo? It's a machbo, Shumeshus Hamachboim. He makes the stuff in the hidden places fall down. Udu he bring a pasuk. Udu mikol machboim ajischabisham. Know and see. This is Shaul telling his people, his army, go know and see wherever David is and try and smoke him out. Okay, says the Mishnah further. Halacha Gimel. Ezu peret. What's peret? By grapes, hanosher b'shas b'tzir, that which falls out at the time you are harvesting. Haya baitzer, if you were harvesting, akatzeta eshkol, and you cut off a cluster, huspach ba'alin, and you got mixed up in the leaves. Nothing other than aretz v'nifrat, and it fell down from from his hand to the ground. Then and became peret that way. That's not peret. Harish Baal Bayis. I mean, because it was inadvertent, it was an accident. It was an accident. It has to be that it slips out, not by an accident. I mean, if somebody puts a basket under the tree at the time that he's doing the actual harvesting, of course, they're going to put the baskets, the grapes in the basket afterwards, as we spoke about before. But if you put the basket on the tree at the time you're harvesting, I raise the goes on name, you are thieving from the poor people. That says, Al tasek gvul olim. Do not attack the border of those who come up. Olim is, we learned previously in Parak Hey, Aloha Hey is the Aniyim. Okay, according to the Gemara, it says it's when you put it down, put a basket underneath, it's considered to be a gezel that as it's falling, it becomes parrot, not when it hits the ground. Doesn't this answer Ilfo's question? The Chufoy asked, does Leka become Kaddish on the way down? So, no, here could be it's different. Here, on the way down, it might not be Kaddish, but when it hit the bottom of the basket, it really would have hit the ground, and that's where it's going to be Goyvel Sanim, because he prevented it from reaching the actual ground. So, it could be on the way down, it's not Kaddish, but when it would have hit the ground, it would have been Kaddish, and he prevented that from happening. Ezui Oleles. What is considered to be an Oleles? This is going back to the Mishnah. Anything which has no ketef nor netef, which Gemara is going to explain. If it has ketef or netef, it belongs to Baal Bayis. If it's questionable as a ketef or netef, then aniyim. The safik that the machmir and give to aniyim. There's a kosev which appear at the end of the fourth parak. Oleles shabar kuva. If you have a oleles in Arkuva is where the place where the cluster meets the vine, and there you have this irregular grape growing out from there, and you're not sure if it's from coming out itself from the vine or from the cluster. If it was from the vine, it belongs to Ani, as we shall see. It's in the cluster belongs to the Baal Bayis. In the Keretzes, it can be cut with the Eshkol. Reisha Baal Bayis belongs to Baal Bayis. If not, Hareish Shanim belongs to Anim. Gargar Yechidi if you have a single gargir, a single grape. The Gemara is going to explain what this means. So usually says an eshkol. Chachamim say no, it is an olelis. Tanya yeshul kesef avlo netev. If it has kesef but it's not a netev, netev avlo kesef l'bal bais. It has one of these qualities, belongs to Baal Bas. If it has both these qualities, then it's anim. Being safek lanim. If it's a safek, then it belongs to anim. Now we explain what these are. Ezu kesef. By the way, went to the Gemara again. Ezu kesef. Oh, I think this is actually a case no matter what. Okay, because you also the Gemara here. Ezu kesef. What's considered to be kesef? Besikin zu agabe zu. It's in layers on top of each other. In other words, it's talking about where you have the smaller clusters on top, which are in the larger cluster, drooping down on each other. In other words, there are. It comes down like it comes down cluster on top of cluster and cluster of cluster. Ezu netef. What's netef? Tuyas b'shedra v'yardus. They hang also on a central spine on the at the bottom, and they are coming down. They're coming down on the. They come down at the bottom of the cluster. Okay, so there's the form of the cluster is that there's small clusters on the top, where it's closer to the vine, and lower down there are individual grapes coming off the spine, which are at the bottom of the cluster. So the kesef is the like the shoulders, the top of it, and the netef is the dripping part, like the dripping part at the bottom of it. So if it has no kesef nor no netef, then it belongs to Aniyim. Rabbi Shem said, "Vushu kula nogos pas yodo." This did I skip something? So they come down. They have to be. So it has to be. They all touch the palm of his hands. So what does that mean? The Gemara asks. Well, you know, all to touch down. Once they measured an oleles, which was well, review seems to be going on the on the oleles one, which says no ketef nor no netef. Shalom sanim, it says it's only very small, which it fits in the palm of the hand. So Gemara asks, what do you mean? Once they found didn't Rabbi Chia say once they found a time when they measured an oleles sheva litrim, but Tzipori was very very large? Rabbi Chanina, no, Rabbi Chanina said shimnosna al gabi tavla shukul nogos betavla. It means that since there's no ketef and no netef, that means that all the it has no ketef. It has to be that all the grapes can, if they lie on a table, each grape touches the table because it has no shoulders, it has no breadth on the top. So each grape is going to be touching the table as it is put down. Okay, Tanya Amar Rebbe Ben Levi Shnismanu Meiser Tevel Ben Levi, who gets involved with Meiser, which is Tevel. In other words, Trumas Meiser wasn't taken off of it, and he got it. There's a present, Olos, and he found within Olos, Hareza also some Trumas Meiser b'mokom acher. He can make these Trumas Meiser even on other tevel, of course, on this tevel as well. Says Mahakidus, Olos Lav Shaniyim, don't Olos belong to Aniyim, but Rabbi Tamon Tamon, Rabbi named the name of the Babylonian rabbis, Ani Omer, Minani Chotzosim Ashkolos. These are ones which were on the twig of the cluster. Since they're on the twig of the cluster, so they were cut off at the cluster, and the Mishnah said that those belong to the Baal Bais. Okay, so that was the case of Gargar Yechidi. Amar Rabbi Simon Tamad Rabbi Yehuda. Oh no, the next case of Gargar Yechidi. So Tamad Rabbi Yehuda, V'nishar ba'oles k'noikev zayis. It says, what is an oilis? It's like somebody who's harvesting a tree. Shnaim shlosha gargrim b'rosh amir. You have 2 or 3 isolated grapes with no kesef, no shoulder, no netef, no dripping down off a spine. That's considered to be olelis. But if it's considered to be there's one solitary grape, pachas mikan, it's eshkol. So it's not saying even 2 or 3 are olelis, but only 2 or 3, not 1. Dilma, it's a story. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Avra Karam Daroin. They passed the place Karam of the person named their own his vineyard. Vavglon Arisa, and the sharecropper brought out for them Paraska Chada, 1 peach. Vachlun Inun, and it was so large that they ate the Chamarein and their donkeys ate Vayasrun, and there was left over afterwards. The Sharuni, and they estimated size Kadein Lifsa the Kfar Chananya. It's like the pot in Kfar Chananya, the Maxik Social Storm, which can hold a sa'ah of barley, which I guess is very large. B'sar Yomin Arvin Tamon, that was when Eretz Yisrael was in its, flourishing. Eventually, he passed there. After a trade class to go Yodei. He gave them 2 or 3 which fit into their hands. They said, no, who we want on a boy? We want from that peach tree from which we ate before. That's for that tree they came. They kind of love it. They said concerning this peach tree, Eretz Pri, L'malei Milcha, the pasuk can tell him the land of fruit became salted. Meras Yerushalmi, because the people who lived there were bad. Rabbi Chanina said, when I came to Eretz Yisrael, I took my belt and the belt of my son, and the belt of my donkey, and Mekafa Kirsa the Charuvta would not cover circumference of the trunk. The kirasa is the trunk of a carob. The Arad Yisrael below Mati wouldn't reach. It was so large. In fact, I cut off one carob from the tree, and my hand was flowing with honey because of it was such a rich carob, so juicy, so moist. Rabbi Yochanan said, Yosef Sifsuf. It better was the lousy fruit Shachalm B'Yaldusein, which we ate in our youth, mi praskin, from the Chosheva fruit Shachalm B'Siknusein, which we ate in our old days. To be Yoimei, in our days, Ishtani Amo, the world changed for the worse. Rechir Barabba said, Seo Arbalis, Hoisa Motia Solis. Once upon a time, if you had a Seo from Arbel, it produced a saw of very fine flour. Seh kemach of saw of less fine flour. Seh kiva saw of coarse flour. Seh subin a say of gran. Seh morson a say with more gran. And seh gninin, more granular, and gnina I guess is even coarser. We're getting even coarser and coarser. Ukadon, and now afilu chada b'chada lo kaim. But we got all this out of the saw. Now we can't even get one saw to gross altogether from this one saw. The 2 tminim which they brought in Eretz Yisrael, of course, the time the Beis Hamikdash was in a higher madrega. They were so large that when they put them to ride on top of a camel, on top of the hump, Raglei Nogas Bars, the sheep are so large that their feet would touch ground. Rabbi Chuna b'shem Rabbi Idei, Ma'aseh be'echad shekoshlo eiz l'te'ena. Once there's a fellow who, again when Eretz Yisrael was betokva, once a fellow who tied his goat to a fig tree, and he found dvash v'chola muravin, milk and honey mixed together, as they both flow together. Eretz avas chola v'dvash. Right. Rabbi Yomar Bar Pados. Rabbi said to Rabbi Pados, Leisa mechameli ahu skula go karmach. You're not going to show me that unique cluster which you have inside your vineyard. Amalei in, I'll show you. Nafak boy mechame. Mechameli, as he said, he went out and wanted to show it to him. Ad rochi tzafa bakamintor. While he was at a distance, he saw something that looked like an ox inside the vineyard. Amalei Hadain Amalei. So he said, Leisa de Tur Michabel Karma. Michabel Karma, doesn't this ox damage your vineyard? Amalei Hadain Tura dat Savar, that which you think is an ox, whose kula, that's my unique cluster. The Kori Love, and he said concerning this, Ad Shemelech Mimsibo, while the king was still in his party in the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem was still in the Beis Hamikdash. There dinasan recho. Then my fragrance should give off my perfume should give off their fragrance. But Beis Hamikdash but now the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Va'at, you the Eretz Yisrael, kaim b'kash yusach, you remain in your stubbornness. Miyad Yizbun, immediately they start looking for the cluster. V'lo ashkun, they couldn't find it because. The klola immediately took effect. Eisen kumun tren puglin. They brought in front of them 2 radishes. Ben reishatu l'tuma rabba, which grew between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which very quickly. V'abafuke shmitza, and it was right after Shemitah was over, so they didn't grow before. So the assumption would be if they're very large, that they grew during Shemitah. V'amon tu'une the gamla. But they had to be born by a camel. Amar lon v'leisa asir. So they said, I guess to Rebbe, isn't this usher? Because during Shemitah, v'lav sfichin inun. It's this forbidden growth which grows during Shemitah. Stuff which grows wild during Shemitah is also the Rabbanon. Amar le bafuke reshtaita is darun. No, it grew motzoi Shemitah. Since it grew motzoi Shemitah, it was nishtabeh because of Eretz Yisrael, so therefore that's why it's this size. But also sure at that time, Rebbe saw that vegetables grow very quickly, so man who was matir the gzer sfichin, at least to this extent that motzoi shvius you can take vegetables immediately. Bon kame, they asked in front of him, in front of Rebbe. What's the possible? What's the meaning of the puzzle? It says Avshu prudos tachas magrafoseyem. The figs, the separate figs, became rotten underneath their magrafos. Magrafos means their implements. They came on their implements. They became rotten. Instead of us being able to rake out honey with our implements, we'd rake out rot instead. Shiur shel ta'anim is a mice with certain people that a person wrote a row of ta'anim of figs. Sorry for that noise. And he came and found a fence of honey surrounding them. Again, the honey flowed on its own from the figs because of the Shevach of Eretz Yisrael. A certain individual planted a plot lepes of turnips. Would cut off and sell them. And they go very, very quickly, again, because the Shevach of Eretz Yisrael. And the turnips were so large that once a fox came and he made himself kind of like a resting place at the top of the turnip. It was so large. That's where he built his house. I'm blanking out on the word, but his den was so large. My certain places of sichim. One stalk of mustard, which had 3 branches. And one of them got broken. And able to use it so large as the covering of a potter's hut. Found an astronomical number of mustard seeds there. And said, I had one stalk of mustard in my field, but it was so tall, I would go up in it like I was going to the top of a fig tree. An individual planted a measure of peas. And made 300, even more than Yitzchak was blessed. Yitzchak was blessed with 100, and they were blessed with 300. They said, they said, wow, Hashem gave you such a bracha, he began to bless you. So he said to them, go away. The nachas tala bisha alei. The fact that you say this, the fact that you gave us notice to mention the bracha, I guess, or looked at it and paid attention to it, is kind of like an ayin hara, and it caused bad rain. The low kafli havamabid, because if not, it would have made double. It would have made the 600 out of the 1. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda said to his son in Sichnin, go and bring us up dates from the jug, and you would expect they would be dry. He went to put his hands in dvash, and he found there was honey inside, not dates. It's honey. Put your hand deep inside by mala grogos, and you'll be able to get out the dates, which were so fruitful that they produced honey. Once a similar case, Rabbi Yisrael told his son Tzipori, go up and bring us dry dates from the upper floor. He found that the upper floor was awash in honey. Used to sell bee honey. He also had fig honey. Fig honey, not date honey, but fig honey. Besar, that's what from the Aruch, which is, and it says here in the Aruch, on the Kavnaki name of the Aruch, Yifemar and Rabbi Yofuda, that it's of lesser quality than bee honey. Besar Yomin Avin Chamaraya Tamon. Once donkey drivers passed there. Amalam begin to lace on a mataya lechon. In order that he said to them as you send them honey, in order that I should not make you have a mistake, you shouldn't have a mekachtos. Have you understood the who duvsha the yavis this honey I'm giving to you, the tzalian inun. It's from the figs. I have a recollection that Italian is wasps, and this is wasp honey. I bet you that's the Kavanaki probably brings that down. In the back. Yeah, the Rash Cirilio and Pnei Moshe say that. It's from some sort of other sheretz which makes honey. Okay? Okay, I thought it was a wasp, but maybe it's some other sheretz. Anyway, so according to these Farshim, it's from figs. And he said it's worth. So they said, no, this is what we want. Do tav lavidatin, because it's good for our work. I guess they used to rub it against the donkeys. Rash Tim say Ubana, and he took the money which he made from selling them this poor honey, which they liked for their work, and he took the money Ubana be Medra Tziporim, built the base Medrash in Tziporim from it. Lezer Shimon Azul Chad Asar, Lezer Shimon went to a certain place. Aisun Kumei Kruv Mitzamek. They brought in front of him a shriveled, I guess like a pickled cabbage. Amon Sagi Dvashi Avtum Bey. He said it's very sweet. You must have put a lot of honey into it. Amon they lo having in klub be klum. We didn't put anything into it. Minei ubei hava. It was internal. In other words, this is something which was so sweet. Again, all of this because of the shevach of the peiros of Eretz Yisrael. However, Dalit. Hameda Bikfanim, somebody who cuts not just the clusters of the grapes, but also the twigs of the grapes on which they grow. Now, this is something he's not doing in order to harvest them, but rather he's doing in order to fortify his tree. This is like pruning. So when he does it, he can also prune the aniyim's part, because it's in their best interest as well. Even the oil of he sees oil is growing there, he is not allowed to prune those parts. Rabbi Yochanan said, everybody agrees if somebody sells to his friend 10 eshkolos, shu asur liga bohem, that those, then you can't prune them at all. You sold it to him. So you're not allowed to touch the ones which have the clusters. On the other hand, everybody agrees with partners, they can prune in each other's. Rabbi Yehuda says the aniyim are like shutfim, and therefore you can be pruning theirs as well. Rabbi Meir says it's like they own it on themselves. It's interesting, and therefore you can't prune it. On the Rabbi Ami said, Hagat smecha. I don't understand. If imagine how can this be that let's say that he it's as if he sold it, or even if he was a partner for that matter. It really doesn't make sense. If a chaya ate them, so then in other words, if you were negligent and didn't safeguard your vineyard, so then you have to repay the guy because he's your partner, the ani, because you didn't save his olos. So he says Rabbi Ami must say that this is a special question about the zchuyos of aniyim. And that according to the Kavanaki means our name is Shalom Yerushalayim, wherever that is, that it's a special din that it's a special din in the peiros of aniyim that they don't know belong to aniyim until the aniyim actually get them, and therefore you don't have, if you were negligent and didn't grow properly, you don't have to reimburse him. That's fine for Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not sure what he's going to say for Rabbi Meir. I guess he's going to. So therefore, I'm not sure if this. That's the story that's like Rabbi Yami is saying. It's true, he's asking Rabbi Yehuda, but the it's Koshkein and Rabbi Meir. Maybe what's going to Rabbi Meir is the Shomer Chinam, and that which belongs to the Ani. So since it's the Shomer Chinam, that which belongs to the Ani, so it's not only Chayav on Pshia Mamish, but then even Pshia should be Chayav. It's an interesting thing, the Yerushalmi doesn't seem to get into great detail as to what the actual... Yerushalmi gets into no detail as to what actually is the lumdus here.